So putting aside today's slight pullback in the dollar, it's been pretty strong of late, despite obviously a more dovish Fed. What do you put that down to?
Well, I'll tell you, that was the big surprise. On January 30th, we had the FOMC decision, and basically Powell to me gave a green light to buy equities and sell the dollar. So we've gotten 1 out of 2. Equities are doing nicely, and that's the response you'd expect. What's confounding the markets, I think, is the dollar, because U.S. rates are going to stay low. What's changed over the last week or two is the fact that the rest of the world looks even worse. As much as the uncertainty there is here in the U.S., we're still growing pretty strong, 2.5%, 2.5% give or take. Eurozone is close to stagnation. Japan is having trouble. UK is getting hit by Brexit. So it's all from that whole relative sort of viewpoint that currencies are so fond of looking at. And relatively speaking, the U.S. looks good.
I mean, didn't Powell give the green light for other central banks to also ease up when it comes to exiting and tighter policy?
I think that's more being driven by the fact that their own economies are really slowing. I think it's, I think in a sense Powell's move just sort of reflects a broader consensus. We had the RBA tilt dovish. We have the RBNZ. Similarly speaking, I think it's just one by one we're going to a much more dovish central bank outlook. Again, good for equities, and I think relatively speaking, good for dollar.
What does it mean for things like emerging market equities if the dollar has in fact been strong rather than weak, despite the dovish Fed?
Well, for EM that would be good. So the strong dollar means weak local currency. That's going to help exports. There's always a lot of talk about what does exchange rates really mean for exports and competitiveness and all that. But I think for EM in general, what you really need is just strong global growth, and that's the one sort of missing piece of the puzzle that makes me very nervous about EM. We're having slowdown pretty much everywhere except for the U.S. You throw China into the mix as well. They've been easing pretty aggressively this year. So the U.S. is really sort of the last man standing, and they can only do so much heavy lifting. So again, I'm a little more cautious on EM. The liquidity story supports risk in EM, but the global growth story does not.
So when it comes to the strong dollar, I mean, we should keep it in perspective. Yes, it's been strengthening, but I mean, it's nowhere near the peak we saw back in 2016 even. We've been here before. Right. So how should a stock market investor who looks at multinational company earnings be thinking about the dollar right now? Is it a big headwind or not?
At this point, no. It's just maybe blinking a little bit yellow light. What I always joke about on the desk is that when companies report strong earnings because of the weak dollar, it's always because of managerial genius. But when you get weak earnings because of a strong dollar, then it's all of a sudden, well, it's out of our hands.
Excuse. Yeah.
So it's a lot of finger pointing. But look, we're in the 8th and 9th year of this expansion. I'm pretty optimistic for 2019 that the momentum seems to have carried over. We had a strong jobs report. The Fed GDP models are tracking pretty strong growth. So I'm going to say the recession story is more of a 2020. And I think the equity markets should do quite well, at least for the first half of this year until things become clearer.
In terms of Fed expectations, some saying a cut could even be the next move, albeit not soon. Do you think that is over-egged in terms of dovish expectations, that there could still be a hike at some point later this year? Yes,
I do think it's overdone. If you look at the Fed funds future strip, the January 2020 is actually pricing in very small odds of a cut this year. And again, given the strength that I'm seeing in the U.S. economy, it just seems to me not consistent. So I'm actually sticking with the call that they hike in June. They pause in March. They hike in June. Maybe they hike in December if the economy remains strong.
How much stronger is the dollar going to get?
We could see another 5+%. I mean, I think again.
This year.
Yeah, this year. And I just think that it's really the relative story. The U.S. just has a lot of momentum, and it really stands out among a crowd of really sort of 98-pound weaklings.